Hey guys, Charles from Halt's Boots here, and today I'm doing a full on-foot review of the Adidas 11pro 2 Toni Kroos remake. So the 11 Pro 2 actually came out in 2013 and had several different colorways, so that was about 10 years ago. But this white and blue colorway was obviously made famous by Toni Kroos, not only for his love for them, his performance in them, but also his refusal to wear anything but his 11 Pro 2s. So what's interesting about these remakes is I've heard a lot of people call them a one-to-one remake, and that's partially true. So the more available pair, which is this pair here that I have, that has the Copa Pure sole plate, has a one-to-one upper as far as I can tell. But the sole plate is obviously the Copa Pure sole plate, and I'm okay with that. It's the Nemesis 17.1 torsion frame sole plate from 2017, which isn't a bad sole plate. I've talked about it on the Copa Pure and all that stuff, but the actual limited edition remake, they have 250 pairs of those have the Adipure 4 sole plate. And if you didn't know, Kroos's 11 Pro 2s are obviously heavily customized, but one of the main things about them is the Adipure 4 sole plate. It was very hard to get one of those 250 pairs that came with the Adipure 4 sole plate. I did not get lucky. In fact, I was asleep when they dropped, so I never stood a chance. I do know a few people who got them, but I'm not overly worried about getting a pair or wearing a pair. It would be cool to wear, but they're still not a one-to-one remake, and these are definitely not a one-to-one remake because they have a different sole plate. You could say the upper is, which is fine, but even these limited edition like Kroos spec ones that have the Adipure 4 sole plate, I'm just not really impressed by because they're still Taurus leather, and if you didn't know, the 11 Pro 2 is actually Taurus leather, not K leather. And it's not a bad leather, but Kroos gets K leather on his boots. So it's kind of annoying that you're gonna release 250 pairs of a special sole plate when, in my opinion, you should have just done it with these that have the Copa Pure and just done a mass release of those and then done a Kroos spec pair that's K leather and all that stuff. Again, I don't work for Adidas, but I think that would have been cooler. So, you know, I just overall wasn't really impressed or really appreciative, I guess, that they did that. However, I can't say that I wasn't excited to at least try these and wear these. And, you know, for the most part, I actually really did enjoy them. So like any review, we're gonna start with the sole plate. So as I said a minute ago, I do like the torsion frame sole plate, the Nemesis sole plate, the Copa Pure sole plate. I think it's good. I've worn it several times now, and I don't have any real issues with it. For the most part, I only wore these on turf, and for the B-roll, I did wear them on grass, but that was it, just because of how my training schedule lined up, what was available to me. And I do like the sole plate on grass a lot. I think it is a little conical and doesn't have as many studs, so sometimes the grip doesn't always feel there, but on turf it did fine. I didn't have any snags, any issues like that. I really think that it's just a solid sole plate, and I'm hoping for after the Copa Pure 2 that just came out, the next one they either improve the sole plate a little bit or just leave it alone and keep it, because I think it's overall good sole plate. One thing I wanted to do is compare the new remake Taurus leather upper to the OG Taurus leather upper, and I do think that this Samba Pack pair, which by the way is pretty cool, I think it's a little bit softer. This material is still soft, but it feels a little off and doesn't feel quite as plush as these. It's not a bad upper, but you know, the OG still feels better. And I guess it's kind of hard to recreate a boot after not making it for 10 years. I mean, other than Toni, but again, his are K leather. But it's just an interesting detail to note that it's not quite the same as what it was. What is nice is just like the OG pairs, the entire upper is leather, and I want to say even the stripes, besides the threading that's on the outside, the entire boot is leather, and that's really cool because we just don't see that a lot anymore. It's a lot of that hybrid, you know, you get maybe to the midfoot and the toe box is leather and then the rest is synthetic, but I do appreciate that. I mean, even the tongue is coated in leather, so it is nice to keep to its roots in that way. In terms of the softness, I kind of already hit on it, but it just doesn't quite feel as soft as the OG Taurus leather pair or any of these K leather 11 Pros. I know for the 11 Pro 3, it's a super bias coming from me because it's my all-time favorite boot. But if I had to choose a pair to wear for 10 years like Toni's been doing, I would rather wear the 11 Pro 3 than these. So lockdown for these was just okay. I did have tongue slippage, and that's just where if you have your boots, the tongue, you have them laced up, it just kind of slides it slides to the outside of the boot. And it just leaves a little bit of gap where you can see your socks, which is not a big deal. When you have wide feet, as far as I know, everybody else who has wide feet deals with it. It's just something that comes with the territory. Not much you can do there. It's not like my feet were slipping and sliding out of these boots, and I always wear grip socks just to let you guys know when I'm doing reviews, so that way you get an idea where I'm at, but you could feel a little bit of slippage here or there, a little bit of movement, but that's gonna happen when you're wearing a boot that's not really built for agility and speed and lockdown. And again, when you're a Rolls-Royce player like Toni Kroos, you're not doing a ton of these crazy cuts. You're kind of just gliding, receiving, passing, and that's what I think these boots were perfect for. And when I was using them, that was the most fun thing to do with these boots. Also, even though Toni Kroos is an 8.5 UK or 9 US, his boots are also custom built to his feet, so he's not gonna have to worry about any extra room or space. That's one thing that a lot of the Adidas athletes get. So that's kind of just another little fact there for you. I also wanted to talk about the tongue because it's kind of interesting and a unique tongue that I haven't seen on any other boots. And it's actually a really good thing. It has like a thick padding and not mesh, but just there's a lot of like probably foam inserts on the inside above the leather layer. And you also have like a thick chunk right here where the Adidas logo is. And the rest of it is still leather and like that tongue material, but it's thin. So you only have a thick piece down the middle, and then on the sides of that thick piece, you're just gonna have thin like leather pieces, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you've never worn them before and you do get a chance to get the Remake, I think you'll find the tongue kind of nice. And I used to be someone who really liked padding on the tongue and would freak out over it because it just felt really good when hitting a shot or pass. And it does still hold up to this day when you have like a padded tongue like this. So also something kind of cool. The first time I slipped them on for training, I felt a little bit of pressure, and it wasn't a painful pressure, just kind of oh, the sides of the boot are right up against my feet. But within the first 10, 15 minutes, it's not even a thought I had anymore. And the boot stretched out pretty quick. And I don't know how well you can tell, it's not the best angle, but you know, all right here is kind of how the boot stretched for me, which is nice. And you know, no pain after that whatsoever. So that's pretty cool. Like I said about that pair I blacked out, had the same exact problem, which isn't really a problem, where I could just feel the pressure, not painful pressure, and then the boots expanded pretty quick and stretched to my feet, which was great. And it was a half size difference, but it's kind of hard to gauge where that falls in with the remakes and with the OG pairs because they're not ever quite the same. So again, nothing crazy, but it's nice to have a full leather boot that pretty much has no break-in time, and no break-in time is always huge for someone like me who's only wearing boots 5 or 6 times to get an idea for the review and then move on. And when I'm having a hard time breaking a boot in, it just makes the process harder. So that is pretty cool. So for size and fit, I've kind of talked a little bit throughout all the other categories, but I went with a 9 US, and that's mostly because Adidas has been known to kind of just not do the best job on some of their remakes in terms of sizing. So I figured, play it safe, get the 9. Maybe should have gotten the 8.5. I did feel little bits of extra room in the toe, but it wasn't anything to where I was like, I can't wear these. Maybe it was a quarter to half a space too big, but it kind of happens to me when I wear Nike boots, so I'm used to it. And I really didn't have to think about it. I didn't really feel my toe drag at all, so that's good. Could I get away with going down half a size in the remakes? Potentially. I just don't have the time, and I really don't want to pay resale prices to get an 8.5 in these and go down half a size smaller and retest and see if they stretch. But Taurus leather does stretch really well. I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but didn't hit on it enough. It will stretch. So if you want to try going down half a size, and that's up to you, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I just, you know, I went with my normal size and I'm kind of giving you my opinion. I think that the Taurus leather will stretch out for the width. Now, if the length is an issue, that might not work for you, but if an 8.5 feels, or half a size down feels long enough but just not wide enough when you first put them on, just give it, you know, 30 minutes to an hour max, and they should be stretched out. Again, I want to say this is just what I'm thinking. It's not what I experienced, and pick your size at your own free will. Durability is something that I was the least impressed about. Now, I did mention how this leather doesn't really quite feel like the OG Taurus leather on these back here, but on top of that, it just seems like it feels cheap where they kind of fuse the upper to the sole plate, and I'm not trying to hate, but it just doesn't feel quite right. And I guess that's kind of what happens when you put an OG sole plate or an OG upper on a new sole plate. Potentially, I don't know how the Adipure 4 sole plate limited edition ones look, but you know, sole separation already, I've worn them 5 times, maybe 4, and dude, like, it's just kind of annoying. It does have a lot of the frayed stitching, and that's not something that bothers me at all, because a lot of old boots that are leather, that are Adidas, you know, F50s, Copas, 11pros, they all fray pretty easy on the stitching, but the stitching doesn't unravel. Usually it's just one little stitch that'll pop up, and it doesn't look good. It looks a little goofy in my opinion, but you don't really look at that when you're playing, and it's not an issue that I've seen. And I've seen people where they just take nail polish remover or maybe nail polish, and they just kind of do a coat over the thread, and then they just cut it off. So if that's something you're worried about, but durability wise, I'm not really sure these will last that long. And again, it's just annoying that, you know, an overhyped boot, you know, it's a Toni Kroos model, you're gonna spend all this time on advertising and just kind of make boots that don't really hold up, kind of just doesn't make sense to me. So the overall rating that I'm giving the Adidas 11 Pro 2 Toni Kroos Remake is a 7.8 out of 10. And I know you're probably gonna hate me for it. I am the world's biggest hater on the 11 Pro 2. I did enjoy wearing it, but it's a C+, so it's not bad. And kind of if you base a rating on that scale, it's a good boot. And I'm not sitting here saying you shouldn't get this boot, because if you have the opportunity, either you got it when it dropped, you want to pay resale prices, or you're going to get a good deal on them, I think you should get them if that's something you want to do. I don't want you to think I'm turning you away from these boots, but it just wasn't something that wowed me like it should. You know, slap some K leather on here, put the Adi Pure Force Soleplate, make it available to the public instead of 250 lucky people or probably 10 resellers who scalped them. You know, it's just not quite what I wanted or expected from these. Now, do I think this was a cool concept? Yes. Do I think they should start doing more of these? Absolutely. There's some icons, and maybe they do something like an icon pack where they release like the Gareth Bale F50s, the Messi F50s that he scored 92 goals in, or, you know, just all these players who, when you see a pair of boots, you're like, okay, I know that's so-and-so's boot. Would be cool. Obviously, the 11 Pro 2 is a little bit different because he's been wearing them for 10 years, but, you know, just can we get some more of that old school stuff that holds together? And I'll say one last time, if you can get a pair of these, you definitely should. I don't want you to think it's a trash boot, but just so many people just talk about, oh, the Toni Kroos 11 Pro is the best ever 11 Pro made, and I promise you it's not. If this isn't proof that it's not, I don't know what is. And again, it's biased, but you know, I gotta support my boots here, my favorite boots. So yeah, if you can pick them up, pick them up. Overall, 7.8 out of 10. Okay, could have been executed better. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you like this review or like football boot reviews or facts or just want to get more knowledge about football boots, check out our channel. We have a ton of cool videos out there. And with that, I will see you guys in the next review.